So you're turning 65 and Medicare feels like an avalanche. You're buried in a pile of mail, the phone's ringing off the hook with telemarketers, and everyone claims they've got your answer, right? But what if the biggest trap isn't what they're telling you, but what they're not? In the next 18 minutes, I'm going to show you the top 7 Medicare mistakes that could cost you thousands and exactly how to confidently avoid them, as I have for thousands of other people. My name is Chris Cannell. I have over 500 5-star Google reviews for helping Medicare folks just like you. How did I get started doing this? It was through my Meemaw. Unfortunately, my mother passed when I was 15 and Meemaw became like my mom. Meemaw was already on Medicare though, and it was not set up correctly. So her fixed income was getting dragged by, expensive problems. And there was nobody to figure it out but me. So I finally got to the bottom of it, got it figured out, and I realized in the process, it does not have to be this way. Meemaw should not have ended up in this situation. It could have been prevented if someone would just explain things to us in a way that we could understand, And that's how I got started on this. My Meemaw had, 5 sisters and a brother. I started helping them, and then the next thing you know, I'm helping people in my community, and I've helped thousands since. So that's how I got started. I have a passion for teaching and helping people, and I'm going to help you today too. So, the problem with Medicare. Well, first off, if you're feeling overwhelmed because it's confusing as heck, you're not alone. That's the first problem with Medicare, is it's super confusing and not well explained. The second problem with Medicare is once you figure it out, you see it's got holes in it. Medicare is actually a partial package. You get an A and B that has symbols that, we're going to figure out what they mean, but it doesn't have a D, which you find out you need later and so forth. So let's start to unpack it so that you can be clear and avoid the common mistakes and know your next actions from here, okay? So here's the basics you need to know without overwhelming you with too much information. The basics are this. There's 2 parts to Medicare, A and B. A covers hospital costs. A covers hospital costs. But it has a $1,676 deductible. That means you would pay $1,676 every time you hit the hospital door. The second thing is it's got daily costs inside the hospital after you reach a certain number of days there. So again, A covers hospital costs, but it's got holes in it. The next one is B. Now B, you go here, covers doctor costs, but B covers basically 80% of doctor costs, leaving you responsible for 20%. Now that doesn't sound like much, but that 20% is actually the biggest hole in Medicare. There's no cap on it. It's an unlimited amount. And here is where it often comes up. We're talking about doctor costs not just at the doctor's office. We're talking about doctor's costs also in the surgical setting. So let's take a person's example, right? Let's say Sally had a heart condition and she had a heart procedure. And there were multiple doctors involved in her heart procedure, right? There'd be a cardiologist, a pulmonologist, an anesthesiologist, and the doctor bills cumulatively might add up to, let's say, $100,000, right? $100,000. Now, if she owes 20% of that, that would be $20,000, right? And there is currently no ip on what that 20% could be. So, it could go up to, whatever the doctors are charging for that procedure. Get that a little more clearly for you. $20,000. So this is why people don't just hang out with Medicare A and B. That is a huge mistake. It's got holes in it. We need some sort of private coverage to put in place to hold hands with this card. And that's where Medicare plans come in. And so we'll look at that next. Again, if you make a one-on-one with me, I'll go more deeply with you into sort of the nuances of this Medicare stuff if you want to. But today I'm just giving you the basics for you to take away and understand. But do make an appointment with me to get more specifics. We can dig deeper, okay? When it comes to Medicare plans, there's two pathways. You're basically standing at a crossroads right now. So you get to choose one route or the other route, and there's a time sensitivity to it. All right, the first route is called a supplement plan. Its other nickname is Medigap. Route 2 is called an Advantage plan. It's also called Medicare Part C, but really it's just a private insurance plan. You see this one with Joe Namath on TV a lot, right? And JJ and so forth. So these are the two pathways. We're going to dig into that a little bit more closely now. So over here, we've got that Medicare supplement. Over here, we've got the Medicare Advantage. Now, the Medicare supplement plan is the only health insurance in America with no network. So I'm just going to write that here. No network. And that is a huge deal. A lot of people want the freedom to see any doctor, and this is the only one that's going to give them that. The second is it's got very predictable costs, right? You're going to pay a carrier here, let's say, $100 plus per month. And in exchange, you get this freedom, and they're going to cover you at 100% in the hospital. And outside the hospital, they're going to cover up that 20% that we saw in Part B, the biggest hole in Medicare. So this one is the most comprehensive medically because it gives you the 100% coverage of the hospital, pays all of your doctor costs outside the hospital and in the surgical setting, but it does cost more. The other big thing here, though, is it's a time limit on getting it with no health questions. So when you turn in 65, as you are now, this is your one golden window of immunity in life to get one of these with no health questions. If you opt to come back after having this side for a while and want to get one of these, you'll then have to health qualify. So for some people, that's a big deal. This may be the one chance in life they have to be able to get one of these, the supplement plan. So that's the basics of the supplement. Now this one also, downside, cons though, is drug coverage is separate. Not included. Right? And dental, vision, and hearing. We call it DVH for short. Not included. So, this route is more comprehensive medically, has no network, only health insurance in America with no network, but it does have also its downsides. You have to add drug coverage separately, and you have to add dental, vision, and hearing separately if you want dental, vision, and hearing. How much is the drug coverage? When you make your time with me, I'll collect your drug list and be able to tell you specifically. Drug plans start from anywhere from like $0 a month up to $135 a month. So it just depends on your particular set of drugs. You'll give those to me and I'll figure that out for you and tell you what your copays will be and all that as well. All right, so that's that one. The Medicare Advantage, its biggest pro is that it starts at $0. In most markets, there's a $0 Advantage plan by at least one carrier, but usually several. So $0 premium, obviously attractive. Often they do include some perks like dental, vision, hearing, a gym membership, maybe a little bit of a spending money card to use at the pharmacy for like pain relievers and cold medicines and things like that. However, this one has a network, right? And this one has prior authorization requirements. Prior authorization. What does this mean? This means it's not up to you and the doctor as to what gets approved. It doesn't go through Medicare for approval. It goes through directly to the carrier for approval. The carrier has the final say. They have prior authorization. And they can kick back and say, well, we don't think that's medically necessary, or maybe, but we want you to jump through some hoops first. So many people make a big mistake by not realizing that. Maybe they have some bigger health issues or bigger treatments that they're receiving, and they would prefer not to go through that, but they don't know that that's not present over here. And so they jump into this because, you know, it's got the freebies or it's cheaper, and then they run into potential headaches, right? So this is the basics on the difference here. The network, prior authorization requirements. Again, there's some more deeply embedded ones, but we'll save that for our one-on-one call when I can give you more deeply the pros and the cons there. But these are the basics, and you get the gist of it. All right, so now, as promised, I'm going to show you the top 7 Medicare mistakes and exactly how you can avoid them, okay? So, number 1 is timing. You have to enroll in Medicare if you're not on Social Security. You have to do it manually. And you have 3 months before your birth month, then your birth month itself, and then 3 months after your birth month to get it done. Some people just never get that done. They think it's going to happen automatically, but they're not on Social Security, so it doesn't. And that's a big mistake. And then they end up with a penalty for not having that. For not having Medicare. I'll just put the full on Medicare enrollment. Enrollment, yeah. For A and B. Okay? There are some people who have health insurance through their employer, and they get a pass on this. But just because you can keep your employer coverage doesn't necessarily mean you want to. Again, you'll want to make a time with me to take a look at your particular situation and see if keeping the employer coverage and delaying this is the best option, or if ditching the employer coverage and taking Medicare, or the Medicare plan, is a better option. It's often the case Medicare has the better plan than your employer coverage. So make a time with me and we can talk about that specifically if you like. 2, no drugs. So, no plan. So, unfortunately, Medicare Part D is required, whether you have any drugs or not. And unfortunately, several times a year, I get this mistake where someone's coming through my door saying, hey, you know, I'm 72 years old and I need to get a drug plan. Oh, well, what have you had up to now? I haven't had anything up to now. Oh, okay, well, Mr. Jones, why is that? Well, because I've never had any drugs. So why would I have a drug plan? I get it. That makes sense. The only answer is because it's required. And if we don't put something in place, then there's a penalty that accrues for life. So this is another mistake. You're going to avoid that. Make a time with me. I'll help you get something in place that'll help you cover that base so that you don't get any penalties. But that's another one. Next one is travel. So the Medicare supplement plans are great for travel because there's no network. But the Advantage plans are not so great for travel because they are network based. So a common mistake is people who like to travel will get an Advantage plan and then they get on the road and something happens, they get sick or whatever, and then they end up having to pay some out of network cost that they were not expecting. So that's another one there. Another mistake is prior authorization requirements. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but some people have chronic conditions and they're taking special injections, they're getting special therapies, they're wanting to go to get special treatments. Like chemotherapy is another one, for example. The Advantage plans have the prior authorization requirements built in, as we talked about, and people just don't realize that. They take the free plan that's got the free dental, vision, and hearing built in, and don't realize behind the curtain it's got prior authorization requirements, and they go to get their regular treatment and they realize the carrier is going to give them pushback about it. And maybe not let them have it, right? And so this thing they've been used to getting, and they may feel like they really need for their life, they can't get, or they can get it, but they're going to have to pay a whole lot more. For example, cancer, you have to pay 20% of your chemotherapy costs if you have an Advantage plan. So this prior authorization is another one. The next one is that $0 trap. So, as I've said, people will get the $0 monthly payment plan, but what they don't realize is it's got a max out of pocket of like $8,000, right? So, $8,000 if the major thing happens. So, they make the mistake of taking the free plan, not realizing that they have 20% they owe for chemo, over $300 a day they owe for hospitalization costs, and on and on and on. And they end up hitting their $8,000 max out of pocket on these Advantage plans. And then the year rolls over, right? Now it's another $8,000, fresh $8,000 cap they have to meet before they're going to get the plan paying everything after that. And that's what this $8,000 cap means. It means the Advantage plans do pay everything after you hit a certain cap, but it's a high cap, right? $8,000 is a lot of money. So that's another, common trap right there. The next common trap is the network trap. Now, here's the thing about the network trap. People take the free plan and then they get to the end of the year and the plan they were with, it gets dropped by the hospital that they go to, or it gets dropped by the doctor's network that they've been seeing, or one of the specialists. For example, let's say you had a Humana plan, you were going to a cardiologist. At the end of the year, the cardiologist decides we're no longer taking Humana. Well, now you've fallen into this network trap. Now you're going to have to get off of Humana to get onto something else to try and satisfy being able to see the doctor you want to see. That may then cause problems with other doctors that were in the Humana network, like your primary, or so the same thing can happen with hospitals. I know several hospitals I've dealt with this year where customers of mine, the plan we had them on, the plan they were on, no longer accepted by the hospital because they'd chosen one of these $0 plans. And so I have to scramble to get them off of that plan onto a different carrier. So it causes them some headache. Sometimes the doctor they want to see is no longer going to be able to be available for them because of these network issues. Or sometimes you're going to have to drive further away to see a different specialist or whatever. So that's another common one right there. I will help you avoid that. Get with me and I will help you avoid those pitfalls. And if you have me on your team and you do have one of these, at least because I have all the carriers, I can move you, as needed. And lastly, overwhelm. Pardon my handwriting, but many people out there are like this woman here. You may be one of them. You got a stack of mail. It's all so confusing. You get analysis paralysis and you do nothing. And a certain number of people I see a year did that, and they then get penalized in a couple of different ways. Number one, there's monetary penalties, that stack up over time for not getting these things done, like getting a drug plan in place, getting A and B turned on in time, and so forth. But there's also penalty in the way of you lose your option to choose. As I said earlier, there's a certain window of immunity you have to choose, say, a supplement plan with no health questions. Well, if you missed that window and that was what you wanted, that's no longer on the table if you can't health qualify for it. So don't be one of the people who just does nothing. I'm here to help you, and I've helped thousands of people through this, and I promise you I'll hold your hand and make you feel better about it, explain it to you in terms you can understand from here, and match you up with what it is that's going to work best for you. And that leads to the next one. I just reinforce, I do have over 500 5-star reviews on Google, which I'm very proud of. You can read some of those reviews and see what other people say about me. Why choose me? Well, as I've mentioned, I have all the carriers and I have direct to carrier rates. So, why call some stranger on the phone when you can deal with somebody you've got a rapport with? They can give you the same thing that they can, and you can get me on the phone again. Whereas dealing with telemarketers, you never know if you're going to be able to ever get them on again, right? So the second is, I'm easy to get, easy to contact. I also have an assistant and a team behind me. So if for some reason I can't because I'm helping with a client, my assistant or one of my other team members can assist you. You're usually dealing with me, but I've got backup in case I'm busy. And lastly, hopefully, after this, because you like me, I think we should do business with folks that we have some like for, right? Life's too short. So I hope that I've done a little something to help educate you. Even if I never hear from you, I hope that you've benefited from this. And if I do hear from you, I promise to take good care of you, and I hope to hear from you. So please, if you will, book a one-on-one time with me by just using my calendar link below if you would like my one-on-one help. And I'll call you at that time and we'll get your ducks in a row for you. Or if you don't want to use the calendar method, you can just call me. Here's my phone number right here. These are my phone numbers. This comes right to my phone. So if for some reason I can't answer because I'm with a client or in one of these prearranged appointments, then you'll just leave a voicemail and I will call you back. Or Christian, my assistant, will call you back to help you make that appointment. So you can also text me at either one of these numbers. So make an appointment, call me or text me, and then I'll help you get pointed in the right direction from here. I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.